Possibility is 100%, but the probability is 0. By UG Krishnamurti. Hello everyone, this is author PB Flower. Welcome to my channel. I read excerpts from my published series All Kaal None and tie it in with my understanding of the creation. Today's topic for my ranting is 0 and 1. The two numbers that are basis of everything, from native to artificial, but not the beyond. Someone once asked UG Krishnamurti, UG, what are my chances of getting the natural state? UG's reply was very unique. He said, possibility is 100%, but the probability is 0. Of course, he added other explanation to it, but here is what I understood. Probability is mathematical, so 0 makes sense here, as it is numerical and tangible against other numbers, and the chances of getting to natural state is 0 in terms of probability. Possibility is intangible, hence it is doable for anyone, as it is random. You never know. It might hit you. So back to 0 and 1. In a more understandable terms, it is two symbol system or binary code that represents text, computer processing instructions, or other data using a two symbol system. Now this two symbol system often uses this 0 and 1. And this binary code assigns a pattern of binary digits, also known as bits, to each character, or the instruction, text, anything, whatever. And basically it's like saying, okay, 0001 is A, or 01101 is F. I don't know. So on and so forth. I mean, it's just a combination of ones and zeros. And I want to real quick give the recognition for the basis of binary code to Gottfried Leibniz, and he invented this in 1689. And I'm sorry if I butchered his name. So my series name, All Kaal None, is actually just that. Kaal is the zeros and ones, not all and none that's there, which you might have suspected. No. And I will explain that to you by honing on non-duality concept, or the Advaita Vedanta. In the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, sage Yajnavalkya explain the nature of Brahman, or the universal consciousness, as neti neti, or neither this nor that. Perhaps it was quantifying it as a neutral entity, or as per me, balanced. Neither this nor that. So let me read an excerpt from my third book's concluding chapter from the series All Kaal None. Premise here is that Insolent Supreme, which is an engineered being existing on the parallel of the planet Joro. Now he is conversing with the preserver, or the guardian. So guardian of this creation, I mean, and he is explaining the nothing concept to the preserver. So he's saying nothingness is the end and also the beginning. So the preserver threw a number out there saying, so it is 0. What else could he do? Because the preserver resides in conjunction with matter. After all, preserver is conceived to substantiate the creation, quantifying it, measuring it, holding it. And hearing his reply, so it is 0, the engineered being vibrated a howl, saying, "Zero?" And then he just, laughed. And then he says, "The zero has meaning if there is one or more. You have to understand the difference between null and zero first. Only then you can know the difference between nothing and everything. If you close the distance, it will all be the same. To see the difference, you have to stand outside and assess. Likewise, zero is comparative, while null is just null. Nothing exists with it. Nothingness does not need validation from something to feel its presence." What this engineered being just said is that it has tried to explain zero is required to quantify, to substantiate, for validation and for giving one any meaning, the number one any meaning. I had read an excerpt in my creation podcast where this character Eklavya explained how the bouncing energy became aware of itself. Did not happen until it became two or until there was a split. So this one is as good as nothing if there is no split. And that is why we need zero for comparison. I hope I made some sense here. Anyway, so I'm going to read another excerpt where this character Aster, who is also the Insolent Supreme, who in this excerpt was explaining the preserver about 0, 1 and null. So this Insolent Supreme is talking to Quetzal. Quetzal is his fiancée in Earth terms, and she is asking about the dot of energy, or the energy that existed before existence, because Aster had said that unchanged forever does not exist, and she quickly tied it to the energy which is bouncing and changing. So she's asking, even the dot is not forever. So Aster replies to her, "You are clever. Dot is aware of its presence because of schemed memory. It came upon itself and stored that moment as its beginning. So time began from that point on for that dot, even though time is never 0 or 1. So there might be another undetermined beginning. What a paradox." And Aster exhaled, stretching a sigh. His vicinity was filled with dark smoke from smoldering swallow leaves. Quetzal played with all the random shapes of fumes floating in the air. And then Quetzal inferred to whatever he just said, Aster, and she says, "So we will never know the beginning." So Aster says, "Maybe beginning in its truest sense does not exist." He insinuated with arched eyebrows, diving into her eyes. Quetzal lifted hers as well, tripping into his hazels. Aster snorted, admiring her relaxed disposition. Quetzal repeated something Aster had said moments ago. And she says, "Because time is never 0 or 1? So Aster replies to that, "Because it is associative memory. Beginning of what is always the question. It is never just beginning. There is a comparison to something else. Beginning of creation, beginning of time, beginning of the universe or physical existence. Something to associate it with. Otherwise, time does not exist." Aster sought to assert the duality when understanding creation. So Quetzal rolled her eyes and asked, "So what do we do?" Aster raised his shoulders and replied, "This is a messed up situation, Quetzal. Undeniably, a beginning must be detached from everything to be purely germinal. But what will it be without any memory?" So Quetzal heard that and she replied logically, "Nothing." So Aster says, "Nothing, yes. It is a colossal spill of nothingness, and that nothing is there to balance everything." So once again in this conversation, Aster has explained Quetzal that nothing is what is there, Only this nothing can hold everything. And I want to quickly point out that anyone who is full of themselves cannot learn anything new because they already think they know everything. Only nothing is capable of everything, not what is under illusion of already knowing everything. So, and this excerpt also explains the beauty of zero as comparative. And that is why the question, how this creation came about, is rather impossible to answer. And now I'm going to read a third excerpt from my series All Kaal None. Now in this, the character Eklavya and Zenith are conversing, and Eklavya is explaining creation to her. And Eklavya says, creation is personalized yet imperfect. Perfection is a dream. A dream is ideas and thoughts made of memory, fed by waves, controlled by elements of creation, waves which are also known as mind. It feeds on desire. Waves do not exist, yet it does, just like the creation. It can be felt, but cannot be measured or seen, just like the vastness. Its visualization is possible by the beholder or perceiver. A perceiver's perspective is what separates anything from itself. Else it is all one or none. Because one is just as good as none unless there is more than one. That is the first thing we as aspirants come to realize at Chala, aware of our presence by separating ourselves from the surrounding. So Zenith connects it to the time when one realized itself after splitting into two. And she says, like the time when it started, when you separate something from yourself is when it begins to exist for you. Now once again here I mentioned Shala, which I have explained many times in my podcast, but I'll do it again, that Shala is just a schooling system for higher beings. Like this engineered entity Eklavya, he went to school there at Chala, which is on another planet, and a native adaptive intelligence conducts the learning there by formulating that learning or personalizing it for that one student. It's not a many student setting, it's just one-on-one. So anyway, back to my excerpt here again, that one had any meaning when two came along, and that's what Eklavya has tried to explain here, or when it became aware of zero as there were two. So the zero is comparative, whereas one in itself is as good as nothing, but not zero. So that is why when programming, 0 and 1 are enough. It can represent anything to everything. Well, thank you for listening. This is author BB Flower. Until next time, bye-bye.